Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome to another faction preview video for the upcoming Amazon DLC for Total War Troy. And here we are in a custom battle, and we're going to take a look at Penthesilea's army roster and how the initiation rites work for the new DLC. So first up we have Penthesilea here, and the only thing I want to note here is not all the stats and abilities, because we'll have a separate skill tree guide and the variation of abilities will depend highly on how you build her. The cool thing here is she's on a horse, and the horse, much like the mounts of chariots for the base game, is a skill you can unlock once you reach level 13, and you have the choice between a chariot and a warhorse. And we're definitely showcasing the warhorse variation here, as the Amazonian factions are well known for their cavalry. So that's pretty much our leader. What's more interesting is the army setup we have behind her. So for Amazonian factions, you have access to only the basic 5 units here. You can only recruit these into your army, and as they gain experience and level up, once you reach rank 4, you can spend resources to upgrade them to a second tier unit. And depending on which one you have different access to different upgrades. And once they have the second tier unit, they will reset the rank back to 0, and you have to rank them up all the way to rank 5. And at that time, certain tier 2 units have access to tier 3 upgrades, and you can refresh them once again to a rank 0 tier 3 unit, and there are 6 of them. And we're going to look at these individually to see how the progression works and what each unit are used for Penthesilea. So the first unit, right here on the left, is your Initiate. And Initiate is your very standard spear and shield infantry, and Initiate actually make a lot of sense for Amazonian factions, since Amazons, as part of their initiation to join the group, they have to prove themselves by killing 3 men. So this is basically what we have here. And they have one special ability called Worry, and here is a constant ability on yourself, and it's disabled if they are routing enemies nearby. This is going to be a common theme with a lot of Amazonian units, as the abilities are active until something happens. So here the ability is, we will lose 10 melee attack and 10 morale until enemies are routing. So we're punished until we force the enemy to rout. Means we will lose 10 morale, which is not a big hit considering we have 50 right here. And then 10 melee attack, so we have lower hit rate, which is actually pretty a big deal if you think about it. So maybe don't count on these to win you the battle, or you have to focus down some units, whether with your general or with their cavalry, to flank, cause them to rout. That way this unit will have a normal amount of morale and normal amount of melee attack as well. And the cool thing about them is once they reach rank 4, they can be upgraded to Oaththorns. So you finish your initiation, you're now Oaththorns. And they're just the upgraded medium version of the spear and shield unit, but they get a cool new ability called To the Last. And you can see here, once again, it's a self boost, and it becomes disabled when your health points are greater than 50% base. So another way to say this is it becomes active once you drop below 50%, and that's why it's called To the Last. And what happens when you lose over half your unit is you gain 12 points of melee attack and 12 points of melee defense. So you'll hit hard, you'll hit more accurately, and also be able to evade more attacks. And if we take a look, they have bonus to Vis Large and also a shield that blocks 40% missile fire. Pretty good unit. And if we level these up to rank 5 and be able to upgrade them once again, we have the Hippo Machios, who are based on these Lydian Lancers, and they have a ton of different abilities, and we can see that they actually have quite low charge for a cavalry unit because this is a heavy unit. They still do have bonus against axemen, swords, and large, so a lot of bonus damage, as well as a bigger shield that blocks 60% all missile fire. And another few cool thing is they have what's called Life of the Bronze, and this basically reflects the fact they use bronze-tipped spears, and after you have killed 200 or more enemies, this will become disabled, and before that point you get 15% extra weapon damage, and after you kill 200 your spears are chipped and you lose this bonus damage, so you become weaker as you kill off more enemies. Then you have Relentless, which is actually just the ability you will enjoy during the whole battle, and all this does is make you immune to scare and terror, and also give you discipline, which means even if your general dies, you will suffer no morale damage, and you also rally back more after your rout. Lastly, you have Fierce Resolve. This is another ability that becomes disabled once your morale drops below 50%, so you enjoy all these bonuses when your morale is high, and the bonuses are 8 points of weapon attack, 12 points of melee attack, and 8 points of charge bonus, and some immune to psychology, which is actually quite redundant because you do have Relentless. But the reason why is because you have the other bonuses, and Fierce Resolve is shared on other units as well who might not have Relentless on top. So this is kind of your top tier upgrade for your Initiate. And we can move on to the second basic unit in the Amazon Chargers. Now these are quite different. They don't have shield, they have a two-handed spear, and they have high charge, 22. If you remember, that heavy cavalry only had 25. And these units pretty much are your flankers, very vulnerable, no shield, low armor, and they have what's called spread and charge. And this is a unit ability that's active on self that becomes disabled if you're climbing or manning equipment or on a platform. So basically, when you're on land, you're good to go. And what happens when you have this ability, which is kind of always available to you, it's a active ability, is that you'll gain 30% extra charge bonus, which will push this even farther. And you also lose some of your melee defense, so you can't evade attacks. So basically activate this before you flank charge into the enemy, and you'll do great. And when this unit upgrades and have rank 4, you have choice between two options. It branches out. On the left, which we'll cover first, is something called Horsewoman. And Horsewoman here is your medium class cavalry, and they have high charge, 46, and decent damage, and a shield that will help them block. If we can grab onto the right unit, there we go, 40%. So not the 60% you get from the heavy version, even though the shield visually looks the same. And you can see the main difference is the armor setup here. And they have a few abilities of their own. Life of the Bronze, same idea, bronze tip spear, higher damage until you hit 200 kills. And then they have Skittish Horses, which is once again a punishment if you have a disable. So as long as your health is greater than 50%, then it's disabled. But once you drop below 50%, you will lose 30% speed. So your horses become scared as you lose some of your units. And the cool thing about this unit, if you went the Horsewoman route, is you also have two options when you upgrade. And the two options are, once again, you can branch back to the Hippo Machio, the heavy cavalry, or you can move back farther to have a light cavalry called the Furies. And you can see they look quite different. They look almost like harpies on horseback, bidents, face drawings, and these red capes on some of them. And their horses, some of them look very cool as well. And the Furies are basically your high charge light cavalry with bonus damage to heroes and also bonus damage to large. So they are hero hunters in a sense, and they have Eager for Blood, which is also once again a disable effect. If there are any friendly units routing nearby, then they will lose this ability. But if not, they have 10 morale and also 8 melee attack. And then they have flanking attack improved, which is pretty standard, and they will cause fear. So this is a route if you want to go with more heavier light charges, heavier damage, not heavier units. Or you can go with the more sturdy heavy units up here. So that's what you can do with Horsewoman. And these two units basically branch from everything we talked about earlier. Now, had we not gone Horsewoman and instead stayed on foot and got these Stalag Noirs, which is another term that the Greeks used to call the Amazons. I think it was referred to in one of their tragedy plays by Aeschylus. Anyhow, we have another two-handed spear units with the same spread and charge and additional flanking attack improved, so it kind of reinforces the role that the Amazon Chargers played in your army. They have higher stats, obviously, and from them there is no upgrade. This is top tier for this group. Basically, if you chose to come here, you're going to be stuck here on these your flanking two-handed spear cavalry. So I don't know how much use you get out of them, because they are quite vulnerable to range and they have low armor stat, and perhaps the cavalry route is definitely the better route for the units, because you can achieve similar flanking in much simpler ways with cavalry sometimes versus infantry. Now, that's pretty much it for the Amazon Chargers, and we move on to Warband, which is an axe unit for the Amazon units in terms of the basic recruits. And they don't have any special abilities. They have really good charge, really good damage, armor piercing on their weapon because we do have this bronze axe, and they can be upgraded in 2 different variants as well. So on the left, we have a better version of them in the Labyrinth Infantry, and they're more well known for the Labyrinth axe, which is this 2-handed axe. That's also a symbol for the Lydian Empire, which is more of an Iron Age empire to be honest, but we have a couple references to them already in the Hippo and the Labyrinth Infantry here. And this is a pretty iconic axe, and they have Fierce Resolve, which is a bonus we already seen on the Hippo, so it kind of makes sense they're linked because they're both kind of Lydian Kingdom references here. And they have armor piercing on their axe as well, also very high charge. And they have access to 2 different upgrades, and they're both quite nice. One is we can wear a bit more armor, go medium armor here on the Daughter of Ares with the same axe, and we're pretty much, you know, going to be a bonus against spearmen, armor piercing damage, infantry unit. And we have Life of the Bronze, which means we lose battle capacity after we kill 200. We also have a smaller unit size, 68 if you notice here. And we haven't looked at this yet, but this is also a smaller unit size. But the other ones are all 90. And another bonus on them is they have flanking attack improve as well as cause fear. Now, if standing on foot swinging your axe is too boring for you, we also have a cavalry version of the axe unit in the Anaritas? Yeah, Anaritas. And they are basically shielded one-handed axe unit. They have more of a tomahawk style type of axe. And what we have here is Eager for Blood, similar to Furies. Basically, there's no routing friendly units. You have higher morale and higher melee attack, and they have Fierce Resolve on top of that for a bunch of bonuses, including to their charge bonus, which is already quite high, and they have armor piercing on their weapon as well, and some very cool looking horses and pretty good armor as well, even though they are just a light cavalry unit, kind of featuring the style of Furies, except for you have a spear variant and an axe variant, as well as some infantry axe variants as well. And this all comes from the Warband leading into the Labyrinth Infantry. Now, had you not gone the Labyrinth Infantry, there's another choice here in the Quarry Knights. And Quarry Knights, I don't know what the reference is, but as far as I know, Quarry Knights is just a mineral. But they also have an axe. It's the same variant you see on the cavalry version. They also have the shield. They're basically the cavalry version on foot in a sense. They have different abilities to the last, but this is Inspire. So it's passing on to the last to an ally that's 200 meters away, and this basically means if your ally is below 50% health, they get extra melee attack and extra melee defense. So they're kind of a buffing unit, and then they themselves have to the last as well. So this is another choice you can make if you don't want to go cavalry, or perhaps you just don't have the resources for it, and this is a tier 2 unit that does not have any more upgrades. And that rounds it up for Warband, or the axe version of our basic unit. And we can move on to the Skirmisher, which has the most variation here for Penthesilea. And Skirmisher is your Javelin unit. So basic version, quite like all Javelin units in the game, you have a shield, you have a Javelin, and you have pretty decent amount of ammo, not that high. You obviously can switch over to melee attack after the fact, and you have some missile damage that are armor piercing. You also have Relentless, which means they're going to be immune to fear and scare and terror, and then they're also going to be disciplined. They have many upgrade options. They have 3 in fact, and the first one is we can get ourselves on chariots. And chariots has been nerfed in the game since the first patch, and they're definitely going to be weaker. And this variation is a Javelin Carrot, so they are ranged. You can still flank them on good terrain and run people over, as this is a medium-sized one, so you can still use them for that. They have pretty simple abilities, horseback shooting and firing while moving, nothing special about them aside from that. And they don't upgrade any farther. You don't have access to any high-tier chariots as the Amazon, since you focus more on horseback riding. And then The middle variation here is something called the Huntress. And the Huntress is just the upgraded version of the Javelin Infantry. They're still light, they don't get any other additional bonuses. They get this thing called Forest Fighters, but I don't actually see any particular bonus that's associated with that. But they do upgrade once. You can upgrade them into two variations. You can have Themysciras Chosen. Themysciras Chosen. This is the old capital of the Amazons, and it's been raised by the Chians 15 years prior to the start of the game, or at least that's the setting in the game. And these are your elite javelin units here. They have ability Serrated Edge, and it's a constant effect targeting enemies as the projectile will lower morale. So kind of put the scare in the enemy. This is your highest damage, and this is a discourage. It will hit morale by 10. So that's actually pretty good, and definitely a great debuffing units for you to have. And then they have armor piercing on their weapon as well. Pretty decent ammo, pretty decent damage. Range is lacking, but it is a javelin unit, so you can't ask for too much. And they have, we can't really see, there we go, decent speed. I was trying to look for how fast they can move, because you want to move these behind the enemy. And they look great. They have probably the best dress award here for the ladies. Or you can have a cavalry upgrade from your Huntress. And the cavalry upgrade here is called Mounted Huntress, so you can guess what they do. They also have Serrated Edge. They also have firing from horseback. They have a sword in hand, but they have javelins hiding on their ammo. So they're Javelin Riders with the sword. Very, very strong. Because imagine they're pretty much the faster variant of these, and you can have them apply the effect to multiple enemies in rapid succession because you can pretty much shoot them. But you don't see the -10 here, you just see the Serrated Edge, which means this -10 might be additional. It might be an additional discourage. So you might get even more than 10 morale hit with them, but you don't get that with this. Or it could just be a display error and they didn't put it in. I have no idea. So can't really test these late game units yet. Very hard to get because you have to rank up, rank up, rank up, and not die along the way. And then we're not done with the Skirmishers. Skirmishers can become mounted right away as well. So like an infantry upgrade, a chariot upgrade, and also a mounted upgrade. You can have mounted Skirmishers. So not much to say about these. They're pretty much on horseback. Skittish Horse is a shared ability once again. Can fire while moving. And they're pretty much just the normal units on horses. They have one upgrade option. They can be upgraded into the Huntress. So perhaps this is the more flexible option in the Huntress here, because you can upgrade to either one. If you've gone horseback already, you can only continue on horseback and can't get access to these. And lastly, we have our Slingers, Stone Slingers. Pretty typical unit here. Highest range you have, lowest damage. And they can be upgraded into two different variants. You can become a shielded Stone Slinger. So better armor, better range, better damage, and a little bit of shield that block 40%. This blocks 40%, and also, you know, clearly this blocks 40% too. Clearly the same effect. Regardless, they are going to be your top end slinger option if you're going for slingers, or you can go for archers. 165 range is not bad. Obviously your sister Hippolyta is more of the archery focus general here in the game. We're more of the charging style, but we do have the option for some archers, and they have the ability of volley, which is kind of a manual fire target ability where you can channel a powerful shot and fire a volley into a given area, and it's on a lot of these archer units. And they also have relentless, so they're also immune to any psychological effects such as scare and terror, and they also become discipline. And that's pretty much it. You don't have any tier 3 upgrades for any of your range units, and this is the roster that Penthesilea will bring to her horde armies. Now you still have access to special units such as giants and such through your war spoils, which we mentioned in our first everything new added in for Penthesilea video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We'll come back with one final video later today where we'll look at Penthesilea's and skill tree to see how we should build her, given that we have such a roster. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye!